Inflation was 9%. It was gutting the American people like a fish. Stevie Wonder could have seen it coming. President Biden asked, and Congress consented, I didn't, that we start spending money like it had the value of Louisiana ditch water. Had President Biden, had we discovered life on Mars when President Biden was president, he would have sent it money, immediately. And I remember the Federal Reserve represented by Chairman Powell sitting here, and we're talking about what to do about it, and he explained his plans, and in so many words I said, not going to work. I've read the white papers. You can get inflation down, but we're going to have to suffer unemployment of 7, 8, 9%. It didn't happen, did it? We had a soft landing. And the Federal Reserve was in part responsible, in the best sense of the word, for that. And we don't applaud that enough. And we can debate whether the chairman and the vice chairman and others should raise or lower interest rates, and what we should do about quantitative easing, and how many economists can dance on the head of the pin. But it's a fact. We had a soft landing. Thank God for it. Now, inflation is not down where we want, but 2.7% is a hell of a lot better than 9%, without having to suffer 7, 8, 9, 10% unemployment and the human misery that goes with it. So the Fed did something right. On the other hand, what in God's name was the Fed and some of your other agencies thinking when you allowed banks to debank customers for reputational risk? Are you kidding me? Why did you allow that to happen? Because you didn't like their politics, or you didn't like the products they made. I mean, do you think it would be fair? Senator Warren's not here, so I hesitate to talk about it. Senator Warren was a distinguished professor at Harvard University. Some people don't like Harvard. Some people don't like their politics. How could you possibly allow a bank to have the option? I'm not saying they did it, but to debank someone like Senator Warren. I'm using her as a hypothetical example because you didn't like her politics. And you can say the same thing about gun manufacturers and oil and gas and anybody you don't like, and you let the banks do it. What in God's name were y'all thinking, Madam Vice Chair?
Well, Senator, I appreciate your concerns, and I share them. I was not the vice chair at the time
I know that.
Decisions were made.
But your institution went along with it. The banks proposed it, and your institution sucked it up like a Hoover Deluxe.
In my view, debanking is never an appropriate activity. It is, every American in this country should have access to financial services, and they should not be limited from access to those services based on their political, religious beliefs, or their engagement in a particular business that may be disfavored but is legally allowed.
He took everyone back to a time many Americans won't forget, when inflation surged to nearly 9% during the presidency of Joe Biden. Prices were rising fast. Families were struggling. At that time, people were really feeling the pressure. Food, fuel, rent, everything was going up. Kennedy warned that heavy government spending could make things worse. And for a while, it looked like the economy was heading in that direction. But then, something unexpected happened. Under the leadership of Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve began to turn things around. Inflation didn't just slow down, it dropped from nearly 9% to about 2.7% today. Now, this is the part many people didn't expect. Usually when inflation drops this fast, jobs are lost. A lot of jobs. But that didn't happen. Instead, the US avoided a major spike in unemployment, something economists call a soft landing. Kennedy even praised the Federal Reserve for preventing what he described as the human misery of mass job losses. And honestly, that's a big deal, because in past situations like this, millions of people could have lost their jobs. For a moment, it sounded like a success story. But then, the conversation took a sharp turn. Kennedy shifted his focus to something he believes is a growing threat. Debanking. That's when banks deny services to customers based on what they call reputational risk. In simple terms, this means a bank can decide you're too controversial and shut you out, even if you didn't break any law. Kennedy questioned why Americans should lose access to banking just because of their political views, or the kind of business they run. He called the practice unfair, and even dangerous. To make his point, he used Elizabeth Warren as an example. Even someone like her, he argued, should never be denied banking services because of political beliefs. Every American should have access to financial services, Kennedy said. Sitting before the committee, Federal Reserve Vice Chair Michelle Bowman responded. She agreed. Bowman stated clearly that debanking is not appropriate, and that Americans should not be excluded from financial services because of politics, religion, or lawful businesses. That's a strong statement. But the big question is, will anything actually change? Bowman also noted she was not in her current role when some of those decisions were made. But for Kennedy, this issue is far from over. As the hearing wrapped up, he sent a clear warning. The scrutiny of banks and federal regulators is just beginning. So here's the real question. If banks can decide who gets access to money, what does that mean for ordinary people in the future? And who should have that power?